Hello, my name is Misha Sharif, and you're watching Decoding Careers, where I talk to professionals about their careers. Today, we have Barbara Moss, who is a senior Java programmer for American Airlines. Now, here's some information about being a computer programmer. On average, the salary for a computer programmer ranges from about $44,000 to $131,000 annually. Almost all programmers have a bachelor's degree in computer science or a related subject, but in general, it'll probably take about 4 years of schooling, maybe more, just depends. So, how are you today, Barbara?
I'm great. Thank you, Misha.
Thank you so much for being here. And we were talking about this earlier before, obviously, we had started the recording, and I was telling you how much I really enjoy Java and programming. I've only been doing it for like a year, but like as soon as I was in the class, I had just like kind of grown an affinity, I guess. Like the class environment was super fun, and like programming, like I mean, obviously we're doing like super basic things like hello world and like and like I would say variables, I don't really remember like command prompts and all that stuff. And so they're really simple. Obviously, it looks simple to you, but like I feel like I really enjoyed it, and I really like throughout the year, it just was like really fun to me. So next year, actually, I'm gonna be taking computer science A, which is like an AP level. But something I've just kind of wondered is like what led you to choose this career? Because like this is something I kind of like love asking people in general, because like looking at why someone picked a career is almost as important to me as the career itself. So could you give me some insight on that?
Actually, IT was the one thing that I was not going to do when I was your age, because that's what my dad did. And it's what my sister wanted to do, and I wanted nothing to do with it. And in high school, I didn't get to have Java. We took a programming class that was Pascal, which was structured programming, kind of old school. Didn't like the teacher, didn't enjoy it. But then when I got to college, so I went for a business degree, but I didn't have a subject area specialized. And then I took a computer class like you did, which is a better class than my high school class. And I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed, solving the problems and making the computer do things, and had a change of heart and really enjoyed it and decided that's what I wanted to do. So
definitely. I feel like playing around with computers is like really fun. And like I just kind of like I kind of understand how you feel. Like I feel like I can relate to that a lot more. And so like going more into like the professional, like because you decided to like pursue computers and you decided to pursue Java and everything. So going into the professional one, I don't think the career, like the actual profession, is that much different, right? So why don't you describe to me like 3 words that you think best describe the profession?
So technical, fluid, and challenging.
Why do you think they like describe your profession?
Well, I mean, technical is kind of obvious. That's the whole, that is the whole profession.
Mm-hmm.
It's very fluid, like constantly, even just with Java, it's always evolving. So you have to, I mean, oh my gosh, right, the language itself is always evolving, and then the style of how you work with your teammates changes. So I've been doing it for 24 years, but even how you work with your colleagues and how you design the project and build the project has changed over the years. So just, I mean, just everything is always changing. So that's why
Yeah, definitely.
And then and I think that's the fun part, is the challenging, right? Taking something you don't know how to do, and even now still, I find it really exciting when you get something working, right? So I get a lot of satisfaction from making it do what I want it to do. So that's and I've resisted. I've been asked multiple times to go like down a management path, but you don't get that same kind of personal satisfaction of making things work.
Right.
So,
Like I kind of understand what you mean. Like you pour in all these hours into making your program be like perfect, work just the way you want it. And when it works, you just feel so happy and so satisfied because all your work and all your effort, like the mental path you had created in your mind, just it just went so smoothly and so flawlessly. And I definitely understand that. Anyways,
and sometimes when it doesn't, it's even better.
yeah, because like you guys
It's
I guess
hard and you make it work.
yeah, and you get to see yourself grow and you get to see yourself kind of like improve and like walk through like the entire like process. And I know you talked about this a little bit earlier, but could you describe to me what educational background is best for being a computer programmer?
Um, there's two kind of main paths. So I actually got a bachelor's in what would now be considered IT,
Okay.
which is more the and actually my degree was called Business Computer Information Systems.
Oh my
Um,
God.
it's just
That's
pretty wordy. IT is much easier to say. Now I went to UNT. Now if you go there, I think it's just IT. But so there's that, which is application development, user front ends, that type of thing. But then you can also do computer science, which is actually not in the School of Business. That was in the School of Engineering, but that has more of a focus on like the internal operating systems and
oh, okay.
so an operating system is not just for like your computer, but for like your refrigerator and like everything has microchips, right? So
Yeah.
it's more computer science is more in the engineering and back end type systems, I
I
would
see.
say.
While we're on the topic of education, are there like, and you had described a little bit earlier, like computer science and like the field that like you're in, it's like always like changing, right? And I just want to ask, are there any like special certifications or trainings that are like required or that you think are just like needed to be a computer programmer?
There aren't any that are required. It's definitely advantageous, especially if you're applying for a new job. Then they definitely, I mean, it helps, right? So not only does it help prepare you for the job that you want, but it people might be more willing to look at your resume if you have it, right?
I see.
But they aren't required, and you don't necessarily have to have the degree. Some people just go for the certifications, and then you might be able to get like a lower level job at a smaller company where they're willing to take a risk on, they're essentially paying you less to get your foot in the door, but the certifications show that you're capable of doing that work.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, obviously we had talked a lot about like the education and the stuff that it all comes together and brings out the final product, which is the actual job. So, like now focusing more on the like day-to-day life, could you describe to me like a typical day in your job?
So it depends every day. So I get to work and catch up on emails and IMs. More and more, it's IMs versus emails. And then we have a stand up with the team. So every day you get together with your team and you say what you did yesterday and what you plan to do tomorrow, and if you have any blockers. So if you need help, you should. And we actually made a rule on our team that if you're stuck on a problem for more than 2 hours, then reach out and ask for help. Right? That way you're not sitting there. Sometimes just having a different point of view can help get you unstuck, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really good rule that we've put into place. And then it kind of depends. Some days are great and like can just focus and work all day and code or program. And then some days there are a lot of meetings and not a lot of actual work gets done.
Yeah.
And more we've been doing those pair programming and swarming. So if it's a new technology to all of us, then we'll all learn it together and work through using the new technology. So that's kind of a new, as I said, fluid. that's kind of a new thing we're trying. So
it looks like I feel like your days are kind of like very like opposite. Some days they're just like super calm and peaceful and you have the day to yourself, while other days like I feel like they're like filled with like a lot of like people like interacting with a lot of different people, and I feel like it's filled with like just meeting people, like trying new things. And I think there's just so many different kinds of aspects to your job, and I feel like with that you need like a lot of different skills. So could you describe to me like could you describe to me what three important skills that you think would be needed for being a computer programmer?
sure. So one of those important is the ability to learn new things. Problem solving and communication is really important.
Definitely.
Both in understanding what the product owner wants and being able to communicate back, especially any issues you might have, or working with the team.
Yeah, and I think like especially the communication part, because you were saying that like sometimes your days are full of meetings, and so and also just as like a computer programmer, if you were like talking to someone like making a product for them, it's like really important to understand what they want, and so communicating them is really important. I think it's just something that's important like for every career.
Everything, yeah.
Exactly. And like getting like your words across is just extremely important, I think. And I definitely agree with you. And I feel like with like all of these like going back to like a typical day, right? For you, there's just so much to do, I'm sure. And I feel like with that and just like in all careers, there's always like different challenges that come with being like a computer programmer or like a doctor. There's just so many different challenges. So, what are some challenges that you face while being a computer programmer?
One thing that they try not to do, or with agile, it's not supposed to happen, but we still get unrealistic deadlines where it doesn't matter. You may say it's going to take this much work to get something done, but the deadline is still much sooner. And so that can be a problem sometimes. And especially like last year, the year before, it was, if you don't get all of your applications off these servers by this date, the company is going to lose $2 million. So sometimes those happen, and that can be very challenging. And it's so funny because I'd already put production support, which can be working in the middle of the night, holidays, weekends, and then so I filled out the pre-interview, and then, oh my gosh, Monday at 10, we realized there was a problem with an application, which isn't even supposed to be my application anymore.
Oh my God.
We had a lot of turnover, and so there hadn't been time to do KT with the new person yet. And I got 2.5 hours sleep.
Oh my God.
Monday night.
Yeah, I feel just so bad for like bothering you. That's
no.
Oh my God.
You're fine. Well, but then it was nice though. It was and then it wasn't even done. Microsoft had caused an issue. So they had a code change on their side, which cut off all connectivity to my application. And then it took them a very long time to figure out what the issue was. And we finally put in a workaround at 5:00 Tuesday night. But then at least I got Wednesday off. So since I'd been up most of the night, Monday night, and then woke up early and worked a little bit late. So Wednesday I just got off as a comp day, get some sleep and recover. So that was good at least. So it was brutal, but then I got lots of love.
I'm sure, but I just think like that's just like something that kind of like clues into like the reality of like how like people like put pressure, because I think they think that like computer programming is something where a person will just sit there like the entire day and they'll code. And so I feel like that's where like the like unrealistic deadlines will come, or like people just think that computer programmers are people who are just so like, obviously now there's a lot more like awareness, but they would just think like, at least for me, especially when I was a kid, and I'm sure this applies to like people I go to school with, at least when we were kids, we would just think, oh, well, people who make apps are just people who like sit in the corner of a room and just sit there and code. And I think that's just a very unrealistic like portrayal of how this career is, because I think that like all careers, there's just so many different aspects. And what happens is that like when these things kind of come in, it kind of affects the actual like work. And I think because of that, like your deadlines are just super short. And I also think that like you are being like so overworked. Like, oh my goodness. Like your projects and everything, like that's just so much stress put on you. And I feel like that also just puts so much like discrepancy with your personal life. And so I just kind of want to ask, how do you balance your personal life with your work life?
It can definitely be challenging at times. Luckily, I have teenagers now too, and they're awesome. So, like my boys will make lunch for us, and so I was working and stuck on this, and they came and brought me lunch, which was fantastic. So it can definitely be a challenge with the work life and the home life. And for me, I'm particularly lucky because my husband's in IT as well. So he understands that sometimes things break and you have to help fix it. So I'm really lucky in that respect because spouses are not always that understanding. But since we're both in the same business, he's really supportive. But unless it's a true emergency, right, I try not to check emails. So like actually don't even have Outlook on my phone. If it's a real emergency, right, then I should get paged that there's a problem. I'm not constantly looking for if there's something wrong. And the nice thing is now I'm on a bigger team, and so now I'm only actually on call like 2 weeks out of a quarter. So it's much better than it used to be, except for this week.
I definitely see that. And I think it's so sweet how your kids make you lunch. And I will be definitely taking notes. My dad, if he ever needs lunch, I don't know, I'll just do the same thing for him. And I think that like having people who understand that like your work can be demanding is extremely important, especially like in balancing it. And I think your work also does that by giving you like days off, right? You had like you worked like crazy all through the weekend, and then on Wednesday finally you got a day off to like rest. And I think though, like because they're like you have a lot of work, I just like how you kind of are able to like balance that, right, with your one day off. And I understand like it can be like really hard, but like at the same time, like I feel like after all that work you just sit down and you're just like, oh my gosh, I did so much work. And I also really like how you try not to keep Outlook on your phone. And I think that's just something really cool, because a lot of people, for them, it's so hard to be away from the work. And having Outlook on their phone is something that maybe if they're like gone on vacation, they'll just be checking constantly or something. And so I like your kind of like your idea that, oh, if it's a real emergency, then they'll page me. And I think that's a really good way, because like that way you can kind of just like leave like, oh, my home is for my home, my work is for my work. If they actually needed me, then they'd be able to page me.
And that's what I did yesterday too. And I put that in Teams, so our instant messaging, and I said, I'm turning off all notifications.
Oh my gosh, I mean, as you should.
Call me.
Literally, as you should, because I just feel like on the times you get like breaks and whatever is like the times you just really take to like relax and de-stress, obviously. And I feel like that's kind of like I kind of like relate that to school though, because in school like we work for like 9 weeks straight, and then we get like, or not, it's a little bit more than 9 weeks sometimes, but a lot of times right after like we get winter break, we get Thanksgiving break. And I kind of just like that, because all the time school will bleed into like our personal lives. I don't know if anyone really has a personal life at school anymore, because we're all like working hard and whatever. But Once we do get breaks, I try to like have that same kind of like philosophy that like my dad has whenever he works. It's just like work is for work, home is for home. I don't know. I still have like projects and stuff, but school also what they try to do is they try to like finish the like grading period right as winter break hits, so their kids, like the kids who are in school, they get time to de-stress. And I just really like how like you do that as well, kind of like you, once you work really hard, just take a break and you just like allow that time to de-stress. And now we are at the last question. Our time is coming to an end, but this is the most important question. And to all the people who are watching, if you have not been paying attention, this is the time to pay attention. And this is the golden question, which is, what advice would you give to a high schooler who is trying to pursue this career?
So there's, which is so much better than when I was starting out. There's so kind of an overwhelming amount, but a ton of free training online. And one of my favorites is in 28 minutes, which is for me is nice because I don't have to do ads or anything, but you can still you can go to it with, and he's got just like, especially for Java, he's got great tutorials where he explains how like Spring Boot, which is one of the major frameworks, just like really from the start shows you how to build applications and explains everything really well in a really easy way to understand examples. And there are a lot of IDEs, so that's where you actually build the Java applications. And so there's free interface design tools you can download and use. And if you're a student, there's a ton of free, even the purchase software, there's discounts for students. So it'd be really cheap for you to buy different resources, whereas a professional would be expensive for me. And then there are really cool websites that can actually help you practice your skills. So like Code Wars, and Code Wars is not just Java. It's got like 20, maybe 20 different languages. But it's really great because it gives you little teeny, it starts you off super easy and has little problems that you can solve. So it's not building a whole big application, but it's little problems you can solve and they get harder and harder. And then it's gamification, right? So it gives you points for, and you can have rankings with other people and you can even join other people. So it's really good. And I used it recently to practice and get my skills better in Java. And there's Code Wars, and there's another site called LeetCode. So there's even multiple sites that can allow you to do that, but it's good. Instead of doing Wordle, it's kind of like a Wordle for Java programmers. So, but yeah, and that tool, and actually it's great because you can practice solving the problem, and if you get the solution right, it'll show you how other people solved it. And it's really interesting to see how people think differently and how they solve it. And even because I've been doing it for so long, it helped me learn the newer ways to do things, right? So it's like the old ways still work, but now they've come up with better, easier ways to do things. So it's a really good tool for me to get a refresher and kind of update my skills.
Yeah, okay. So I've just been taking a couple of notes, okay? Because like as soon as you started talking about like Code Wars and gamification, I took down Code Wars, gamification or vacation. I didn't hear that. And then I heard LeetCode. But I will definitely be trying these out. I'm always looking to like further my skills in Java, especially because like I'm just really excited. School is starting up. I need to like up my skills to get good grades, I guess. So I will be definitely looking into those. Thank you so much for that great advice, everyone. This was Barbara Moss. Thank you so much for being here and agreeing to this interview. And all in all, thank you so much for that great advice.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.